Hey guys, welcome back. As you can tell from the title, this video will be about Star Wars. I mentioned last week that I'm going to start Disabled Danny Deep Dives. I think Star Wars is a good topic to dive deeply on.
Dive on in.
Obviously, there are people that do this better than I ever could. I've already mentioned Star Wars Explained, but I recommend creators like Jenny Nicholson, who is my current hyperfixation. Anybody who takes time to talk about Star Wars deserves your attention, and I wouldn't want you to think my hyperfixation is what I'm telling you to do. With that being said, there is going to be a lot of crossover considering I've consumed so much Star Wars content. I know some stuff has been talked about to death, so I'm a little sorry if this is nothing new. With that being said, I just want to share this before we start. You certainly don't expect gym footage in a Star Wars video. I know I'm trying to fit a round peg in a square hole here, but come on. Just look at that form. If you don't want this,
whatever, I'll do what I want.
Star Wars time. I like the Acolytes so far, Yord Horde, am I right? But I'm not a fan of every Star Wars character having a tragic backstory. They're already from a galaxy far, far away. You don't need a gimmick to tell a good story. Pretty much every character that has been introduced since Disney purchased Lucasfilm has some sort of tragic backstory. From Rey to Ezra.
They're dead, aren't they?
I'm sorry, son. They are.
Now Osha. Heck, they even crammed a tragic backstory into Darth Maul's arc in the Son of Dathomir comics. It's become a crutch and you don't need it to tell a good story, which I already stated. As a side note, if you're not consuming Star Wars media outside of the films and TV shows, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. Seriously, so good dude. But hey, what do I know? I'm just some guy in a wheelchair. Aside from that, I want to talk about the sequel trilogy. The prequel trilogy was about the Galactic Senate, for crying out loud.
I am the Senate.
Star Wars has always been political. I'm wearing different Star Wars shirts here, in case you couldn't tell. Also, to say Disney somehow doesn't follow the rules of Star Wars by not strictly adhering to something someone else wrote is absolute horsepucky. George Lucas has a track record of bastardizing his own material. He clearly doesn't care about what someone else says. We don't even need to mention this. Also, I get very upset when Star Wars is referred to as science fiction. George Lucas has been on record saying in his universe he does not care about reality. If he wants a fire in space, it's gonna happen. Or an epic explosion. None of that is possible inside of a vacuum. For real science fiction, I strongly recommend the Planet of the Apes franchise. It's much more plausible. Really good hard science if you're into that sort of thing. That brings me back to the sequel trilogy. You clicked on this video, so you're subject to my dumb opinion. I liked The Force Awakens and thought it was a fun way to be reintroduced to the franchise.
Chewie. We're home.
When The Last Jedi came out, there were mixed reviews, but at least Rian Johnson tried something. And this line, specifically, is very Jedi.
Not fighting what we hate. Saving what we love.
I also don't think Rose deserved any of the hatred she received. Seriously, for Kelly Marie Tran to get death threats is just embarrassing.
Oh, well, that's embarrassing.
The Rise of Skywalker, however, was an absolute dumpster fire. Jenny Nicholson said it best.
So this is really stupid, but
I also have to say that this scene that was intended to be very dramatic looked more like a scene in a comedy. It's clear J.J. Abrams never had conclusions for a lot of things in his stupid mystery box. It's just bad writing.
Painful writing. It hurts.
And destroyed Lost. He undid what made Star Wars great by never making the main character be confronted by the dark side. That terrible writing nearly was the demise of Star Wars. If it weren't for Dave Filoni and the aforementioned books and comics, the franchise would not have survived, truly. I really don't want to put it all on one person. I just think J.J. Abrams dropped the ball so hard. It required missteps from multiple people to goof like that. Not naming names, but it's absolutely on someone like Kathleen Kennedy who gave him that type of power. Not to be too much of a hater for something I love, I would be remiss not to talk about Cad Bane. As I have mentioned before, he is my favorite Star Wars character. This is us at Space Dive.
Dive on in!
Which is a Star Wars themed event that I highly recommend. I also recommend coming up with your own backstory. I'm a former Jedi in hiding. I'm disguised as a scoundrel and I've had to do some non-Jedi things to survive. I've been known to smuggle spice or take the occasional bounty. I really just go wherever the credits take me. I live in a whitey Corellian 1760 light freighter that I won in a game of Sabacc. I'm wearing another set of Star Wars shirts. If you thought I didn't have multiple, you thought wrong.
No, I don't know what I expected.
I can't do a deep dive
on in!
Star Wars and only briefly mention Dave Filoni. That simply won't do. For the non-Star Wars nerds out there, he is behind almost every Star Wars television show in some way. I think they are the main reason the franchise has the staying power it does, and like I said, he's the only reason Star Wars is still alive. He just gets it, man. I also want to talk about the cartoons. Or animated series. I guess that makes it sound more grown-up. In which case that does not include Young Jedi Adventures, which I'm a big fan of. It just got greenlit for a second season. Your boy is pumped for that. From the Clone Wars to Rebels to the Bad Batch, all of those shows are just chef's kiss. Except for Star Wars Resistance. We're just not going to talk about that one. The fact animated characters being attempted to be brought into live action is commendable, regardless of how they look. Cough cough Ahsoka. I have to mention my obvious bias towards Disney though. They definitely create those warm fuzzies, but the reality of the Disney machine shows how manufactured it all is. That brings me to the Ahsoka series. Drew Gooden specifically talked about this. Go check out his video, after mine though, because I definitely had these thoughts first.
Remember this guy? Remember this guy?
Namely, why the heck would Ezra do this? Logically, he would say he's not an enemy ship. Ezra would logically assume that an enemy ship would be destroyed. The word logic keeps getting thrown around, which is kind of not great writing. But Drew specifically mentioned this moment in his video, which just shows how head-scratchingly dumb it is. I want to talk about the movie Solo for a second. There were certainly moments I enjoyed. But I think its flaws are emblematic of the franchise as a whole. I already said these characters are from a galaxy far, far away. That should be enough. The movie fell flat because Alden, whatever his name is, just simply isn't Harrison Ford, and it's unfair to have that expectation. As you know, I can't use the robot, or I guess it's a droid in this case, to plug my website. You can join my cult, the Dan Fam, by subscribing. Remember to be gentle while liking this video. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.